शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यत्परं ब्रह्म सर्वात्मा विश्वस्यायतनं महत् सूक्ष्मात् सूक्ष्मतरं नित्यं तत्त्वमेव त्वमेव तत् जाग्रत् स्वप्न सुषुप्त्यादि प्रपञ्चं यत् प्रकाशते तद्ब्रह्माहमिति ज्ञात्वा सर्वबन्धैः प्रमुच्यते त्रिषु धामसु यद्भोग्यं भोक्ता भोगश्च यद्भवेत् तेभ्यो विलक्षणः साक्षी चिन्मात्रोऽहं सदाशिवः मय्येव सकलं जातं मयि सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितं मयि सर्वं लयं याति तद्ब्रह्माद्वयमस्म्यहम् अणोरणीयानहमेव तद्वन्महानहं विश्वमहं विचित्रम् पुरातनोऽहं पुरुषोऽहमीशो हिरण्मयोऽहं शिवरूपमस्मि अपाणिपादोऽहमचिन्त्यशक्तिः पश्याम्यचक्षुः सशृणोम्यकर्णः अहं विजानामि विविक्तरूपो न चास्ति वेत्ता मम चित्सदाहम् वेदैरनेकैरहमेव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद्वेदविदेव चाहम् न पुण्यपापे मम नास्ति नाशो न जन्म देहेन्द्रियबुद्धिरस्ति न भूमिरापो न च वह्निरस्ति न चानिलो मेऽस्ति न चाम्बरं च एवं विदित्वा परमात्मरूपं गुहाशयं निष्कलमद्वितीयम् समस्तसाक्षिं सदसद्विहीनं प्रयाति शुद्धं परमात्मरूपम् यः शतरुद्रीयमधीते सोऽग्निपूतो भवति सुरापानात् पूतो भवति ब्रह्महत्यात् पूतो भवति कृत्यात् पूतो भवति तस्मादविमुक्तमाश्रितो भवति अत्याश्रमी सर्वदा सकृत्वा जपेत् अनेन ज्ञानमाप्नोति संसारार्णवनाशनम् तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं कैवल्यं फलमश्नुते कैवल्यं फलमश्नुत इति।
The ultimate truth of Advaita Vedanta, which talks about the unity of Brahman. Whenever we study and understand that, and when we reflect upon it, we have to be very clear as to what standpoint or the point of view from which we are viewing it. From the point of view of the absolute truth or the self, there exists nothing but the self only. So he says in this mantra that there is no earth, there is no water, there is no fire, there is no air, there is no space for me. You cannot conceive of anything beyond these five elements. Each and everything, including the mind, is made up of these five elements only. And he says, there is nothing of this sort for me. From our standpoint, we do experience all these things. So from the point of view of a person who is caught up in the Maya, who is like a person who is going to the jewelry shop wanting to purchase bangle or a necklace or a bracelet, different things with different names and forms do exist. But from the point of view of gold, nothing exists apart from gold. Bracelet, ring, all these things do not exist for gold. Gold remains as it is. Gold is Advayam. Advayam means without anything second. From the point of view of the gold, whatever you see as necklace, bracelet, etc. is nothing but gold and gold alone. So this point of view must be firmly kept in mind when we understand. From the relative standpoint, world is real. All the rules of the world is real. And therefore we need to abide by the rules. World is made up of pairs of opposites. Each and every one of them is real. Therefore you need to work in terms of what is dharma and what is adharma. You need your intellect to distinguish between the two and separate your path correctly. But from the point of view of the absolute self, which is the standpoint of this mantra, he says, there is absolutely none of these things that exist for me. It is interesting, the order in which he mentions the elements, it is exactly the opposite of what has been mentioned in the mantra 15. Mantra 15 talks about creation, where he talks about how these 5 elements come about, where he talks about space, air, fire, water and earth. So if the creation is from the subtlest to the grossest, the dissolution is from the grossest to the subtlest. That's how dissolution is mentioned. Of course, here it is not even talking about dissolution. Dissolution in the sense, it is called as Adyanta Pralaya. We have mentioned this before. There are 4 types of Pralaya. Laya means that which goes and gets embedded. Layam means that which is gone, dissolved. Pralaya means the ultimate dissolution. Ultimate dissolution is talked about from 4 different angles. One is the Nitya Pralaya, or the Pralaya that an individual experiences on a daily basis, which is at the time of sleep. From your standpoint, the world doesn't exist. So the world dissolves as it were for you. And you can just extend this to say that for those who are dying on a daily basis, various people, for them the world doesn't exist from their standpoint, wherever they are continuing. So this is called as Nitya Pralaya, or on a daily basis. Sleep is what is referred to here mainly. Death is nothing but another form of sleep only. And then you have the Naimittika Pralaya. Naimittika Pralaya is where, because of a nimitta, because of that cause that it happens, the cause here given is Lord Brahma's sleep. Lord Brahma's sleep is said to be after a Kalpakala. Kalpakala is 1000 Mahayugas. One Mahayuga is 1000 Chaturyugas. So it is a very big calculation. After which Lord Brahma goes to sleep, by which time the 3 worlds of Bhu, Bhuvaha and Suvaha are said to be dissolved. Not the other lokas which are above. So therefore what is there under the purview of the Surya Loka, sun, that gets dissolved, is said. And then again when Lord Brahma wakes up the next day, this again comes. This is Naimittika Pralaya. Then the Mahapralaya is when Lord Brahma's lifespan itself is over. So calculate Lord Brahma's lifespan, where it is 100 years. So we calculate this one day, then equivalent of that is one night, put together is one full day, into 30 days is 1 month, into 12 months is 1 year, into 100 years. So it is a phenomenal figure, as though like infinite. That's Lord Brahma's age. After which what happens? The entire creation goes back into dissolution, including all the lokas, whatever you can conceive of, absolute. What remains there finally is only the Ishvara Tattva that remains as it is. The manifestation of Maya is also withdrawn as it were completely. That's what it means. So it becomes inherent within him with that potential thing, as though he is in a cosmic sleep mode. He is there. He is in a cosmic sleep mode. This is called as Mahapralaya. After which again the Srishti starts. This is manifestation and unmanifestation at the ultimate level that we can conceive of. But what is talked about here is from the standpoint of Guru reaching the state of absolute nirvikalpa samadhi or a self-realization state, which is called as Adyanta Pralaya. Adyanta Pralaya means here Maya is also won over. There is no such thing there. So that is why he says, for me there is no any of these elements. So from that standpoint only we need to understand this. And then he says, Evam viditva Paramatma Rupam Prayati Shuddham Paramatma Rupam. See, he says Evam Viditva, and then he gives some indicators. Then finally he concludes by saying Prayati Shuddham Paramatma Rupam. So 2 times he gives this word Paramatma Rupam here. So what it means is knowing the immaculate nature of the self thus. Evam means thus. Thus means what has been given in the previous line, that I don't have any of these elements. That means I am there by myself as it is. There is no explanation, or it cannot be just captured in words. Evam viditva, having understood the Supreme Self like this. In fact, this point can be explained little further when we go to the next mantra, where he is going to give a very direct tip or very direct advice as to how to practice this. In that portion it comes. But here what must be understood is, only when you are able to understand the Paramatma Rupam. Paramatma Rupam means the absolute, immaculate, inherent nature of the self. Again, all these words that we use, but that is what it is. Satchidanand, whatever Swarup, whatever you call it, that Swarupa Lakshana, you understand it as thus. Thus means he has negated everything that is non-self. That alone which remains, evam viditva, having understood it thus, if you understand it thus, prayati shuddham paramatma rupam, only then you attain that shuddham paramatma rupam, that pure immaculate self, you will be able to attain only when you are able to understand self like this. This is in fact very tough for the mind to conceive, but as we discussed a couple of classes before, we have this technique of negation and assertion. Negate what is non-self and assert what is self. Assertion of self by the intellect is not possible with reference to a fixation that you have caught it within your intellect. It is not possible. Therefore, whatever is conceived as matter, whatever you can conceive of, including your thoughts, everything, you have to just set it aside. Neti means not this, not this. That is why understand that this water is not me, this air is not me, this fire is not me. This can be taken as a practice. So therefore, who are you? For who am I? As we said, there are certain pointers that are given here. So the tattva or the principle that works here is that as you think, so you become. That is what is the underlying principle here. Other Upanishad says Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. So the knower of Brahman becomes the Brahman. So evam viditva paramatma rupam prayati shuddham paramatma rupam. He who is able to understand means understand in essence, which is realization only. He is able to understand in essence that this is the self. He attains the state of the self. So this mantra can be taken both as a declaration and as a path, the path that is given for deep contemplation and meditation for realization. For that, certain powerful arrow marks, certain pointers are given. First he says, Guhashayam. Guhashayam is abiding in the cave. It is hidden in your heart, in your core of your personality. That Paramatma Rupam, that which is being talked about. See, cave is something that is unexplored. You really don't know what it is, but it is hiding there only. It is with that intensity when you are able to approach, only then it will reveal itself. And it is not merely by an intellectual curiosity that it will reveal itself. You have to have that deep, intensified search for it. A few classes back, Ishwaran was talking about what is important to develop is what is known as this pangs of separation. Only one who feels the pangs of separation will want that union. Okay, if we understand now that this Jivatma or individual self is separated from the Paramatma, union is required. Now, unless otherwise you feel the pangs of that separation, why will the lover come to the beloved at all? Why would he leave? So, therefore, what is required is that intensity with which we have to search. The example is given that of a mother playing hide and seek game with the child. Both of them are only there, so within the house to entertain the child, she herself plays the game with the child. And the mother hides and the child is trying to find. The child is very small, but with all its efforts, it's looking here, looking there, it cannot find the mother. Being very young, then it feels little panicky. So at that point, when it starts crying, what happens? The mother automatically comes. So when that child, out of its own effort, wants to just search here and there, it really doesn't get the solution. But it may not search, but sits in a place and starts crying. That means it is not going here and there and searching, but that, what you call that, that longing, that yearning, that is there in the very great level, it will automatically get revealed. So that what is there is actually waiting to reveal itself within our heart cave only, Guhashayam. It is with that intensity that we need to search for it. Nishkalam. Nishkalam means without parts. It is absolutely one homogeneous mass of pure consciousness. There is nothing apart from this. These are again the pointers for us to think about. It is all these terms really doesn't make direct sense to us in terms of conception, but in terms of our contemplation and this thing, it gives a very powerful suggestion. So, Nishkalam Advitiyam, one without a second. That means it is infinite. It is experienced only in that state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Advitiyam, that one without the second, that absolute homogeneous entity of consciousness, Advitiyam. Then he says, Samasta Sakshim. Samasta Sakshim is absolute witness of all. It is there as just, imagine two eyes that are there just watching everything. That's all it is. It is not really dependent on whether there is something to watch or not. But from the relative point of view, it is very clear. Petrol is like the Sakshi of all the cars. It is just activating all the cars, but it is a very detached witness as to how the driver is driving the car or what is happening to the car. So a car may go and crash in an accident. Petrol is still the witness. A car may take the passengers safely or even save a life like in an ambulance car. Still petrol is the witness. Like that, each and everything that is happening in the universe, it is just the witness. So witness is again to be taken here as an indication of what is the path as well as the goal. So therefore, we need to practice this objectivity in each and every step of our life till we get that state of absolute objectivity. Absolute objectivity is the Samasta Sakshim. It is a witness of all. So Sakshi word has come more than once in this Upanishad. Very powerful word, very practical and useful word. Never should we forget that. And from a very mundane practical point of view, unless otherwise you are witness of your own experiences, try to get into that stage, there can never be any equanimity of mind. That's not possible. The moment we, opposite of Sakshi is what we understand or what we experience is involvement. Involvement is mind getting entangled in each and every experience that we go through, and you become one with it. So we may ask, what of that? What does that mean? Whatever happens to that happens to you. That is the connection. When something happens to the business, it happens to you. When business go up, you go up. Business goes down, you go down. When the pressure shoots up, you shoot up. Like that it is. It is all indicative like that only. So each and everything that is there is apart from me. I am separate. This is the Sakshi Bhavana here. And lastly, he says a very powerful indication. Sat, Asat, Vihinam. Without existence and non-existence. Very famous terminology. It is there in 13th chapter. Again, it comes. 13th chapter, something else also we mentioned before. 13th chapter is Upanishad actually. There he says, I think, Anadi Matparam Brahma Nasattan Nasaduchyate. Beginning indeed is Brahman. Anadi Matparam Brahma. Nasattan Nasaduchyate. It is neither Sat nor Asat. In that sense it is given. It is given from a different phrase that is used there. Here he says Sat Asat Vihinam. We are always told the Swarupa nature, the Swarupa Lakshana of Brahman is, it cannot be defined, but the closest word we always use is Satchitananda. Satchitananda is the, what you can say, the closest word that goes there. Sat, Chit and Ananda. The first word there is Sat. Sat means existence, absolute existence. Chit means absolute consciousness. Ananda means absolute bliss. This is the actual nature of Brahman. But here he says Sat Asat Vihinam. That means he says it is not existent, but it is not non-existent. You cannot put it in the frame of existence in the sense existence as in our experience. That's all it means. See, when we talk about Sat, that Sat is that existence principle. So we say that, let's say, we always give this example that the tree exists. But the tree in that particular form does not exist forever. You cut the tree goes away. Tree doesn't exist. But what exists there? Wood exists. Logs of wood exist. The log of wood doesn't stay forever. You make it into a furniture. That furniture exists. A furniture doesn't exist forever. You burn it. What exists there? Ash exists. Something else. So something or the other, it changes names and forms. It changes its shape. But we know that something exists, right? But that something which exists, which is indicated as pure existence, is not understandable for us from our standpoint. Therefore, from our standpoint, if you ask what exists, we only say at this point of time tree exists. At this point of time wood exists. So our existence is within the framework of space and time. In that dimension of space and time, something exists. Something what we don't know, but something exists. So therefore, this Brahman is not to be understood as existing in the purview of our experience as we understand any other existence. So therefore he says it is Sat, not Sat. But that does it mean that it does not exist? He immediately said no, you cannot call it Asat also. Asat means that which never exists at any point of time. That is called as Asat. Asat means what we can say. We can't even give an example. Isn't it? If you give an example, that is existing. At least in your thought it is existing. Therefore we give an example which is something like Shasha Shringa, they say in Sanskrit. That means the horns of a hare. Horns of a dog, you can say. Dog doesn't have horns. If it has horns, it is not a dog. Something else it is. So you have to bring in a dog which is existing in our experience. You have to bring horn which is existing. Combine these two and say it doesn't exist. So that which is not existing also, in order for us to conceive, we need certain things, at minimum two things which is existing. And then you say it doesn't exist. A son of a lady who cannot bear a child. Who cannot bear a child? She is called in some name. In Indian languages we have, I don't know in English what they call. I don't know. Infertile, you can say. Her son. So her son, how it can exist? How he can exist? It's non-existent. That is called Asat. Flowers in the sky is non-existent. So non-existence is that which does not exist at any point of time. It does not exist. Certain things exist for a while. Previous to that it doesn't exist. After that it doesn't exist. But as far as Asat is concerned, at any point of time it cannot exist. Not in future, not in present, not in past. Brahman is not like that. It in fact always exists, but in our experience it is not existing. When you realize the self, you do experience it. Then you say this alone exists, nothing else exists. Therefore, you cannot bring it under both the words of Sat and asat. So it is sat, asat, vihinam. In some other place, it is given as, it is both sat and asat. See, you have to understand the tattva. It can be given in certain words, that's about all. In some places, it is given as both sat and asat. Here it is given as, it is without existence, without non-existence. So what we need to understand is, sat and asat both are intellectual concepts. And do not try to bring in Brahman under any intellectual concept. As long as the world is existing for us, there is pairs of opposite. This pairs of opposite continues up to the very end. Even in terms of understanding what is finite and infinite, in the absolute level is a pair of opposite. In the same way, Sat and Asat is also pair of opposite, Dvandva. And any Dvandva, any pair of opposite is conceivable by the intellect. When we say conceivable, we cannot conceive infinite, but we can conceive that it cannot be conceived. To that extent, it is infinite is a concept for us now. It's a concept. So what is a concept? You will put a mathematical equation and so this is infinite. So we can conceive 1, we can conceive 2, 3 and then I say you add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 and you go endlessly. That is infinite. You can give some form of explanation or something where you can try and visualize it. But though it cannot be actually visualized, there's some way. But in all these exercises, you are trying to fit it into the purview of your intellect. So Brahman, do not try to capture it into the ambit of your intellect. Leave that aside at any point of time. At any point of time, don't think that I have got it. That is why Kena Upanishad is very emphatic in saying, Yasya matam tasya matam, matam yasya naveda saha, avijñātam vijānatam, vijñātam avijānatam. It is known to a person who doesn't know it. It is unknown to a person who knows it. He puts it in a active voice and a passive voice, both emphasis in that same mantra. He says, very beautiful way he puts it. That means a person who says, I have got it, he doesn't know what he is talking. He has lost it actually. A person who says, I don't know, means he does not know of it as anything objectified. He says he cannot capture it with his perception, emotion or a thought. He who has realized the self, he who has experienced it, he alone knows it. So in that sense he says, so the Sat Asat Vihinam must be ultimately taken as, never bring the concept of the ultimate Brahman within the ambit of our intellect. You can go farther and farther with the idea of capturing it with your feelings and the intellect combined together, but leave the idea that it can be brought under your intellect. The eagle cannot go beyond the atmosphere. Wherever it is flying, it is atmosphere only. You have to go beyond the atmosphere to understand what it is. It is not possible. So the intellect's area of activity is in the world only. So let it do well in the world. This is not the area where it should tread. Yet, we use mind and intellect to go up to that level, like pole vault, then leave it and then go on the other side. Very beautiful construction here. It is Sat and Asat Vihinam, beyond the intellectual concepts.
Sir.
Yeah.
So can you please explain more detail something which you know and something which you experience? Because that is the most important part, as you said. You can never know Brahman, but you can experience it.
Yeah.
So, what really is the difference between knowing something and experiencing it?
See that here also we use the word know, and you have to understand this know or the word realize as a not in terms of what we experience now. In other words, our experience consists of three things. There is a subject, there is an object, and there is a relationship between subject and object. This is called as experience. And this experience is through an instrument of experience. So who is the subject here? The individual, the you is the experience. You are the experiencer, I am the experiencer of your world. So what you are experiencing is the object. So when you say, I see the apple or I eat the apple, the experiencer is the eater in you, the perceiver in you. So the instrument is your tongue. Okay. Object is the apple. When the contact happens, when the subject and object meet, it is called as an experience. Right? So the experience is born out of the combination of subject-object coming together. And for all practical purposes, it is correct to say subject and object are different. That is what we experience in the world. I am different, world is different, and I experience. I have been given instruments which are used for experiencing. These instruments are the 5 sense organs to contact the external world. Similarly, mind is also an instrument which is used for the experience of feeling. When you feel emotions, none of these senses come into play, right? You cannot see anger, but you can feel anger. You can feel empathy. You can feel love. All these bhakti, all these feelings. So in that also there is an object of experience who can be the god of your choice, or your mother or your wife. That's an object of experience. You are feeling whatever feeling it is, love or hatred or anger or jealousy. This is the actual experience. And who is the feeler? Who is the experiencer? One who is feeling it. That's the individual. So experience is at the physical level, experience is at the mental level, experience is also at the intellectual level. When I throw certain concepts to you, that is an object for you. You are the thinker. And what is the instrument that you experience here? Instrument of experiences? Intellect. Intellect is the instrument of experience. So with the intellect you are experiencing it. So therefore when you talk about experience, it is coming under the purview of subject-object relationship. When we talk about knowing the self, realizing the self, there is no equivalent in our experience to say that, because we can say anubhava, we can say anubhuti, we can bring in the example of dream. But again, in dream example, see, suppose you say that, let us say it's not possible. Suppose if I come into your dream and say you are not the person who you imagine yourself to be in the dream. Suppose you imagine yourself to be a poor person in the dream and you are asking for money. But I am saying, no, you are a millionaire, you are sleeping in your house in Alipur. All that you need to do is just wake up and realize your personality. So let us say you have faith in my words, but you ask that how do I experience that person? How do I? No, there's no such thing as experience. You only become, you only transform yourself into that person from the dream into waking state. Your dream instruments, that is your dream eyes, dream nose, dream ears, cannot perceive the waker. Your dream mind cannot feel the waker. Your dream intellect cannot conceive the waker. Though I am giving certain ideas about it, you still cannot conceive who is. But the dreamer can only become the waker. That becoming is called as realization. It is actually becoming, happening, whatever word you want to use. Here then all the instruments of experience, subject, object, everything merge into one homogeneous entity here. In this example case, it's waker's mind that it comes into. So, if at all we want to bring in the concept of that instrument of experience here, we can only say that the self experiences itself by itself. That's all, if you want to put it in a statement. But it really doesn't make a proper sense. So, there is no such thing as one person experiencing the self. It is a transformation into a different realm altogether, which however much even a realized master comes in front of us and explains, we will not be able to grasp. The communication itself is not there, because what he is saying and what we are doing, even dream and waking, we are able to understand because they are different in degree. One to other, we have experienced it. Since we know dream, since we know waking state, we are able to relate to it. But that unknown thing, unless otherwise we enter it to ourselves and experience, it just cannot, it cannot be explained. So there is a tremendous paucity of words or any expression to bring it into that.
Like you said, subject-object becomes one for the self-realized person. So does it become one or dissolves?
Dissolves into what? The subject, that is the individual, object, that is the world, both of them dissolve into that infinite self. That's about all. So in other words, the waves merge into the ocean. Ocean alone exists. The ocean is nothing compared to the wave. So what exists is that absolute self only. That's the realization.
This Sat Sathinam, we have defined Sat as one which is the Kalabhati, which exists at all point of time. Now, in a case where time and space itself does not exist, what is exactly the condition of Sat?
No, that is the pure Sat. So, pure Sat is beyond time and space. It is explained to us from the point of view of time and space and causation, because we are experiencing that in our experience in the world now. So what do we call as Sat here? We say that in our experience, what does it exist at all points of time? In our experience,
the waking, dream and deep sleep.
But waking, dream and deep sleep do not exist at all point of time. Waking exists only when you are awake. Dream exists only when you are dreaming. Deep sleep exists only when you are sleeping. So these do not fit into the definition of the word existing, in the true definition of existing, because they are very relative to your experience. What is it that runs through all these things in our experience? I. The I. So the I is called as absolute existence in and through all these things. So therefore it stays in all 3 points of time. In your childhood, now, later also it will stay. In all 3 points of consciousness it will stay. In all your experiences like seeing, smelling, hearing, it will stay. So from our standpoint, we indicate that as pure I. Okay, that pure I, but we are not able to use it in a sentence or even capture it. We say I am so and so, I am walking, I am Indian, I am doctor, something like that you say. So therefore from our standpoint, this is given as an indication for us to contemplate, yet we cannot capture it. Therefore he says, this is not the Sat in your experience. But that does not mean it does not exist, like a non-existent thing. It does exist and you will be able to experience it upon realization. So Saddha Sat Vihinam.
So that definition of Sat, that which exists in all period of time, even if the time and spaces are dissolved, only Sat remains.
Only Sat remains. That which remains is called as Sat. That which remains even after the dissolution of everything is called as Sat. That is called as pure existence.
So the definition is in a relative way to explain to us.
Which one? No, the definition is the same. Definition is the same. In your experience, you do not experience Brahman as the Sat here. That's what it means here. It remains as an absolute existence, except that we are not able to identify now. That's why we brought it to the level of that first person singular pronoun I. That I, if you are able to capture, you have got the Sat actually. Like that it is. Yeah.
Sir, in that example that you just gave about the child, when the mother disappears, it feels this thing for, it cries and the mother comes up. Comparing that to the feeling, the mumukshvatva, I presume that is a similar this thing over here. But in this, so in a mumukshvatva state, you are desirous of something which you don't know, which you have not experienced. So you don't even know what you are trying to experience, but you know that you want something over here. But over here, there is a sort of maybe a limitation of an example that the child has experienced and is missing that. Would that be correct?
Correct. That's a limitation of the example. But in mumukshvatva also, obviously you do not know means you cannot capture it. That we say again and again. But you know that you do not belong here. That is clear. I know that I am bound here. I feel shackled. I feel fettered. And I really do not belong to here. I feel imprisoned. That feeling, wanting to release yourself when it intensifies, then only the removing of the shackling happens. So that yearning to liberate myself is backed by the understanding that I am bound. That is the basis of mumukshvatva. So it is nothing to do with I want God or something. It becomes a very, the intensity of the feeling doesn't come as much as when you understand that you are really bound. Then you understand and then catch hold of somebody who is really liberated, or you want to have him. It comes as a effect of this. So mumukshvatva is basically grounded on the very nauseating feeling that, when I say it not in a very negative way, but that positive feeling that I do not belong to here, that I want to get out of this thraldom. That is called as mumukshvatva.
But the subtle challenge in that is that if you are trying to run away from the world, then
don't worry, you cannot run away. You cannot. The moment you say run away from the world is very real, and you are bound by the world. Better do the duties in the world. Do such thing in such a way that it purifies the mind, etc. When it becomes relatively free, then you will understand the thing of it. See, in other words, unless otherwise that awareness deeply hits, it is now. The awareness comes maybe once in a while and goes. That's about all. It's like a spark from a fire. It comes. Maybe it can come in your early morning study sometimes when you are inspiredly studying a verse, or in a class like this, or when you are into a deep feeling of something, that suddenly it comes. But all the other preoccupations of the world just sink us down. Next we'll see what is the match today. World Cup is next 1 month. It's only the most priority thing is only World Cup football. Today is both Germany matches there and Brazil matches there. That is the priority where Mukshatva can wait. Liberation can wait. This comes, we will say, only once in 4 years. We don't understand what is the urgency with which we have to say that. Anyway, after 4 years this can wait. But how can World Cup wait? It cannot wait. So that is what it all means. So much that we have. It is not ridiculing or something. We are just at that level where the world is real. Your relationships are real. Your duties are real. So better do those duties in a very detached way till the mind becomes free enough. So never only leave that yearning. See, that feeling that you have got sometimes, just positively look back at it and you say how you felt that time. That pangs of separation that you felt. That longing to go towards that supreme, that feeling that you really belong there and not here. At least think about it. At least recall that experience. At least, unless otherwise we have experienced, we will not be knowing what really the masters are saying. We will just not understand what he is saying. He is saying, okay, we will think that we have lost so many things. One of the things we have lost is also ourself. So let me find all other things, then I'll find this. It is not like that. That we have lost our real personality is what is known as, in Kena Upanishad it says Mahati Vinashti. Mahati Vinashti means supreme most of supreme great loss. It is Nashti is loss, Vinashti is a great loss. Mahati Vinashti is a supreme great loss. So if you are able to take step towards finding that in this lifetime, he says, Ihacheda Vedi Data Satyam Asti. You have led a life of truth. Whether we get realization in this Janma and all, don't worry about it. Don't be result oriented about it. But be very positive about taking the step in that right direction. That's all counts. Because as it is in this example also, it is the mother who has to reveal herself. It is he who has to reveal. It is not in our cause that you are going to say that I have done all my efforts. Now you reveal myself. That can come only when that Ishavasya mantra that student says, remove the dazzle and show and reveal yourself, he commands. We should go to that stage and command. So that till that point of time, again we say that we have to do only a lot more karma yoga. We should get into the purification process. Then bhakti comes, then jnana comes in a very proper way.
But this Maya is very powerful.
It is. Therefore, catch of somebody who is more powerful than Maya. That is the only thing.
But 12 says like that, no? Everything is Maya.
Swamiji.
Yes.
The fourth type of pralaya you said was samadhi. Can you say a bit more? How is it?
It is the state of absolute self-realization where you understand that only self exists. Where the Maya has been crossed over.
So it is a bigger pralaya than all those.
It is the ultimate. That is what is known as realization.
Sir, in the concept of pralaya that we talked about, the last authentic pralaya means that even the Maya is crossed over. That means for a self-realized person, it is actually that authentic pralaya which is happening.
Correct. No earth, no water, no fire, no air and no space are for me. Thus knowing the nature of the Supreme Self, abiding in the cave, without parts, non-dual, witness of all, beyond existence and non-existence, one attains the pure nature of the Supreme Self. We'll chant mantra 1 of part 2 twice.
यशतरुद्रीयमधीते सोऽग्निपूतो भवति सुरापानात् पूतो भवति ब्रह्महत्यात् पूतो भवति कृत्यात् पूतो भवति तस्मादविमुक्तमाश्रितो भवति अत्याश्रमी सर्वदा सकृद्वा जपेत् यशतरुद्रीयमधीते सोऽग्निपूतो भवति सुरापानात् पूतो भवति ब्रह्महत्यात् पूतो भवति कृत्यात् पूतो भवति तस्मादविमुक्तमाश्रितो भवति अत्याश्रमी सर्वदा सकृद्वा जपेत्.
He who absorbs Shatarudriya becomes purified by fire, purified of drinking intoxicant, purified of killing a Brahmin, purified of commission and omission. Therefore, one should strive to become ever liberated. He who is of the highest order of life should chant it always or once. The subtle theme of Upanishad, which is the Brahma Vidya, is over with the last mantra. These two mantras are given as advice to the seeker, advice to the student, and probably very important advice. That is why within two mantras he captures it all. And we see this type of a lingering advice is given at the very end of all scriptures, all Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita also. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 63, he says, I have told you all that needs to be told. Vimrachyai tadaseshena yatha ichchasi tata kuru. Having reflected well over it, you do now what you want to do. That's all. The message is over. I mean, chase philosophy of 18 chapters. And Krishna started from second chapter. Whole thing is over. Yatha ichchasi tata kuru. Then in the next verse, immediately he says, again listen to me, I am going to tell you what is really, really important and good for you. And then afterwards only he gives those two immortal verses. Manmana bhavavat bhaktaha madhyaji mamamaskuru, that verse, and sarvadharman parityaja, that verse, 65 and 66. Immediately after that he gives. So 66 is taken as the culmination or charma shloka. Why is it that? Because if you had noticed the language of Arjuna, and probably the body language also Krishna notices, the way in which Arjuna was there in 18th chapter, first chapter, and how he evolves himself into the 18th chapter, it is very clear from the types of questions he asks from time to time. There is evolution in the question, confusion is all gone, and in 18th chapter finally he is asking about what is sannyasa and tyaga, that type of a clarity he has got. And the process in which the Gita is given completely when you go through, it means that the transformation that Arjuna goes through, you also will go through. That is how it is given. Fabulous ending. And then, after the thing is over, is it already over? Arjuna is longing. Arjuna is probably wanting little more. Then immediately Krishna says, and this is there, that lingering feeling after every satsang will be there. It has to be there. If it is not there, probably you have not heard it properly. In any, it could be a Ramayana Katha also or a Bhagavat Katha also. Oh, then they finally finish with Krishna marrying Rukmani. 7 days over already. All the things are over. Little more. Then you wait and you linger. Is there anything more? Extra that he says. Like that it is. So here is the ultimate knowledge given in the Upanishads. In Kena Upanishad also it was there. After the whole thing is over, the student is asking, Upanishadam bo bruhi yuktat. Please, master, teach me Upanishad. And the master very patiently, very lovingly, he says, what has been taught to you is the Upanishad, he says. And then he gives two more mantras just as a tip, as an advice. And he concludes, exactly like that here. The absolute chaste philosophy of Kaivalya. Kaivalya probably contains all the knowledge that is required, and from all the angles he has dealt with. And the student has got all the knowledge, then probably is lingering. So he is giving also a practical advice. So finally, see, why is this given? Okay, the ultimate declaration of truth is that through Gita, the ultimate Brahman is established. Through Upanishad, that is established. Fine, which is correct. Then finally, what you must do? Plan of action. Sir, what should I do now? That is what is important, right? So after having heard everything, actually, important thing is you need not do anything. Just be there and contemplate about the self. But from the level that I am, what should I do? Give me a practical tip. How should I take the next step? That becomes a sadhana for the students at their level. Keeping the knowledge of the Upanishad as the inspiration, we can start from where we are to somewhere, somehow reach that state where we revel in the Upanishads, where we revel in that essence of the Upanishad. What Upanishad is trying to reveal to us, there we must go and revel. But let us quickly finish the whatever we have to do now and just set ourselves in that path. So that path is very important. So, two things we must never forget in life always, that where I must finally go, what is that ultimate destination of me, which is the Supreme Self. Second is, where am I now and what is the path I must take now. That is very important and practical. Otherwise, our step will not be coherent. We may try to jump somewhere where we will not reach. Realistic targets we need to set and keep moving. But each and every step that we take, as long as it is a sure short step towards that path, we need not worry. In other words, there need not be a result orientation as to when I am going to reach it. That type of exasperation need not be there. A frustration should not set in. We need to keep the right goal. We need to take the right steps. Then what happens is that the path itself becomes as enjoyable. You will not want to, feel anything bad about it. You are actually like floating in the air. That type of a feeling comes. And before you realize, the destination also will come. A person is crossing from one bank to the other bank in Ganga. It's a very beautiful setting in the evening. Setting sun is there, cool breeze is there, not very hot. And the waves are beautifully, making noise. And relatively less people, so that there's no congestion or anything. Air is nice. And as the journey starts, the boatman also sings a nice folk song. Will you ever think, when will this journey end? When will this journey end? It will never happen. You begin to really enjoy the journey. As you are enjoying the journey, suddenly the shore comes. Like that it is. So all that we experience as difficulty in going through the path, etc., is only in the beginning. Yattad agre vishamiva pariname vratam. It's only like poisonous in the beginning, but it is, you have to just cross the first few hurdles and it's absolutely a very beautiful path. Enjoyable path. Because if the path is not enjoyable, we will not be inspired to take up Vedanta. Even if you say you want to study, there will not be inspiration to teach. Only if you say that after many janmas, you will realize the self which is infinite bliss. Till such time you suffer in the world. You will say that you keep that philosophy. We don't want, what we want is a cash religion, says Swami Ramtirtha. Cash religion means it must be encashable here and now. So that is why practical Vedanta became such a powerful tool for everybody. You can use Vedanta like that. So that when you use, your journey in the world must be very satisfying, very happy. And then the destination is obviously that. There's no question about it. So that could be the reason. And again, as I said, the Guru is catering to the students who is yearning for more. Final advice he is giving. And also, all the scriptures, various things, give what is known as Phalashruti. Phalashruti means, what is this fruit of reading this or doing this? Now, all along we have been saying that don't bother about the fruit and, you just do your thing. And this is not a fruit that is going to be got out of any karma. But still the fruit is given. The fruit is realization like that it is given. So even in Sahasranama, Vishnu Sahasranama, 1000 names is there. You chant. After that, the Phalashruti is there. Rogartho muchyate rogat, bandho muchyeda vandanat. Those who has, one who has a disease, he will get rid of the disease. One who has bondage, he will get rid of the bondage. One who is a Brahmin, he will get knowledge. One who is a Vaishya, he will get wealth. Whatever you are seeking, that is also possible in the world because of this. Now, why is this type of a thing given? This is the nature of human mind, that it needs some incentivizing, without which we will not want to enter into this. So when people are saying, I want knowledge, I want money, I want this, I want relationship, I want power, he says, don't worry, all those are guaranteed. Easy, that is guaranteed. So in order to first introduce the child to going into the temple or to do puja in the home or whatever you want to make it do, then you say, you want good marks in exams, do this. You say that it is adamant that you would take me to IPL match or the a restaurant. No, you first do this, then I'll take you. Then only God will give you permission to go. Something like that you say. Then what happens is that for the sake of the fruit, we begin to go to temple. We begin to do this puja, or we begin to chant Sahasranama, or whatever it is we do. Then when we get into the right spirit and get into the enjoyment of doing it itself, we will not want, or our eyes will not be in that fruit at all. A stage will come, it is not, you don't chant Sahasranama for the sake of that it will give wealth. That means you have exchanged Sahasranama for a very cheap thing. This time we have chosen the topic as Bhakti for the Guru Poornima talk, essence of devotion. Bhakti is like that. Whatever you want to achieve in the world, it is going to easily give that. But if you are going to exchange Bhakti for just a wealth or something, you have devalued Bhakti. You don't know what is the real purpose of Bhakti. But in order to get into the spirit of Bhakti, first you say that, okay, you want this, then do Bhakti. Something like that. So spiritual practice in any form is like that. That incentivizing is a must. So when a person even gets into the corporate job or something, he is given salaries from the mode of now learning, from the mode of going into college, from the mode of taking from the parents, from the mode of taking from the society. Now he is going into work where he has to produce and contribute. There is a shift in his attitude in life. It has to come, but it doesn't come easily. So all while it is provided to you by mother, everything is there dished out to you. No. If you don't produce results, the boss is not going to be as easy. He is going to be a very tough taskmaster. And then what happens? Okay, you yourself may be motivated that I want to do this and that, but the work and other pressure gets demotivates you. Stress and strain comes. And then they say, in order for you to motivate into work, they will have to provide what is known as this incentives. Otherwise, there is no extra motivation for work. So if you produce this, so much will come. You will get a few more points, or you will earn a holiday or something like that. These are the perks and incentives which boosts a person to work. Of course, it will work in the short term, but it does boost. But what does that incentive really teach us?
The potential is within us, but we are not giving.
So, if a person earns 10,000 rupees a month and with the incentives he is able to earn 15,000, you have potential of earning 15,000 as it is within you. Maybe not 15,000, maybe more also, but you have that potential. That potential comes out when the incentive is there. When the incentive is not there, you don't feel like, why should I work? After all, why is the company paying me more? The whole thing boils down to me, myself, and it circles around there. But the moment a person is later taught about the intensity of work, the joy of working, he will go to office looking forward to Monday mornings for the sake of work only. And then what will happen to salary? Salary, perks, everything will be automatic after that. He is not specially motivated by the result of that action. A person is not really motivated by the 12th Grand Slam or 13th Grand Slam. A stage comes where he is just motivated for the love of the game he plays. Putting in that hard effort, running for point by point, and being in the present and tackling every obstacle that comes in the game. That is the joy. So Swami Ramtita says, intense work is rest. The actual rest, actual peace is there in the garb of work. So when we are able to get that, that is the highest reward. So Swamiji writes in Vedanta treatise that the fruits of the action cannot bring you more joy than the action itself. The action brings you more joy. Okay. Now, in the initial stage, but that incentives is required. If you do this, you will get that. You will get a contract. You will get this, or you will be more famous. All these are the perks and incentives that will push us. Exactly like that. In order for a person to motivate him to come into this and get a taste, unless otherwise a person gets a taste of what Upanishad is, how is he going to even get into the study of it? I remember when Swamiji used to take interviews of us when we were joining. He used to say, all the while you slog and work. If you want work, you study this. This is like insurance. Okay, 3 years. He asked one of my friends, how long are you going to think you are going to stay alive? From the time that he was. Minimum, you say 30 more years you will live. Yeah. I am asking for 10% insurance. 3 years you give. This 10% insurance is to insure, which is the normal insurance amount, that 30 years will be insured. So then what happens? Then he gives couple of examples. See, this boy came as a person who who did not even graduate, but now he commands a whole thing. He takes classes or he becomes a graduate very easily, and the people are wanting him to come to his company and work. So if your aim is that you want work, another thing, don't worry, it is taken care of. Unless otherwise that is said and put into our thing, we don't understand what is the real taste of Vedanta and Vedanta Academy. But once you get into the spirit of it, then you yourself really don't want to sell your time to others for a paltry sum where much more joy can be derived out of the work of Vedanta itself. So therefore, it is very important that the Phalashruti is given so that people get motivated about coming. And then once they get the taste of it, they don't need any further prop from outside for them to do anything, whatever, the right thing will automatically come. Now the Phalashruti here is, it says, Kaivalyam Phalamashnuti. It's going to conclude like that in the last. So the absolute fruit is there by what? By doing only this. He gives a very small tip. By doing only this, you are going to get the highest fruit. So who is a smart person? Smart person is not one who puts in so much effort to get this. Smart person puts in this much effort but gains the maximum. He is a smart person. So he is saying, I am going to give you a tip by which you are just set on the path and you will do this thing. But the fruit that you are going to get is that ultimate only. Very beautiful way of presenting it. Yes, sir.
You speak of the academy with a lot of longing. Personally, would you like to throw all this, go back to the...
See, the important aspect of Vedanta Academy is Vedanta. Okay, as long as we are able to live by the principles given in Vedanta, what is taught there, and adapt it wherever it is, what we make is academy around ourselves. That is what is important. See, what is the academy doing? Academy gives a conducive place for you to imbibe the knowledge and live a life and get a taste of it. But there is a lifetime for you to go deep research and live your life wherever it is. With reference to, even I remember one of the earlier classes where he said, to the extent that not to discourage people, because all of us, we have stayed for some more time, not just the lingering feeling, we need some more time to get established. 3 years is just covering all the portions, so we do stay there for some more time. But he says this is like a asylum. You come here, get treated and go, because you have a greater job to pursue. Like that, Swamiji has even encouraged us like this. So the academy part is to imbibe the knowledge of Vedanta. So Vedanta is probably more important than the academy. But the container is equally important to have the content. So when we say the Shastras contain the philosophy. The philosophies are contained in the scriptures. So the scriptures are very important. So a time will come where you drink the juice, then you can throw the glass. But till the time you have not drank, you have to have that glass also. Because if you remove the glass, the juice is gone. You get neither. So like that, we can say academy is like the container. That may be a poor example, but that's a place or a laboratory where the experimentation takes place. I am saying that is not the only place. It can be different for different people, whatever it is. But that type of a setup with that type of a conducive environment with a bombardment of the highest knowledge time and again. And he says minimum of 3 years. That was at that time. Because when Chinmaya Mission was started, the course was 5 years. And probably to take 5 years ask 5 years of somebody's time may be difficult. People may not. So he says 3 years is a minimum time that is required. So it becomes a laboratory for us to experiment the truths there.
Must have been quite difficult to work out his syllabus.
It is quite different. Yeah, no, that is why he put in a lot of thought, because the syllabus that are covered in other institutions for even 2 years is voluminous. Apart from what we are studying, they study the 6 more Upanishad, Dashopanishad, then Panchadashi, and then Viveka Chudamani and Tattva Bodha. So it is like day in and day out, constant lectures, and these things are there, which may be one way of teaching, but in academy the main emphasis is on reflection and contemplation. So the if you take the whole books that is written by Swamiji, what we study there, 3 years is a very expanded time to cover it, but there is a lot of time given for the depth of the study.
So We all have gone to school. The question is, do we want to go back to school now? Learn. We have crossed that stage and we no longer want to go there.
The correct point is, would you not want to long for that way of life? That's about all. So wherever you are, you have to get adapted into that way of life, which is a discipline is there. There, the person who has running it, he has put a schedule. Therefore, you have to just follow the schedule. The challenge is to take it and apply it in your life, where you are charged and you follow a schedule by your own, which is the challenging aspect.
But in terms of education, PhD is a little different. Digging deeper and deeper and deeper is something that you are doing over here.
Yeah. So, in other words, it's a lifetime course. 3 years is just the foundation part of it. That's all it is. We'll conclude with the bhajans here.
Poornam Adah Poornamidam Poornat Poornamudachyate Poornasya Poornamadaya Poornamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.